We're here to take complex stuff and make it clear and actionable for you.
That's the goal, cutting through the noise.
Exactly. And today, we are really digging into the Augusta Charter Review Committee. We've got the minutes, the comments, everything from their meeting on June 25th, 2025.
Yeah, lots to unpack. Public feedback, some expert analysis they heard, even their own debates.
Our mission here is to figure out, what are the core issues as they think about maybe reshaping Augusta's government? What are people worried about?
What solutions are on the table? And maybe most interestingly, what kinds of challenges are popping up already?
Let's get into it. So to really get a feel for what's happening in Augusta, you have to listen to the citizens first. And the public comments we saw, they weren't just suggestions. There was real frustration there.
A definite sense of unease, maybe even mistrust right from the beginning.
Yeah, James Williams, a citizen, he actually said he was disheartened. He talked about a lack of integrity, ethics on the committee.
He even suggested decisions might already be locked in, that the committee was, what was his word, tainted.
Tainted, exactly.
Right.
Which is a really strong accusation to make right at the start of a process like this.
It really is, and it shows how perception can form so quickly. He specifically mentioned seeing a marked document of an organization structure.
Right, before the subcommittee for that structure had even really gotten its assignment.
Which, immediately makes people think the outcomes are pre-cooked. That undermines trust before they even properly start.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a difficult way to kick things off, for sure. Now, the committee chair did step in.
Tried to smooth things over.
Yeah, reassured everyone, said no decisions of substance were made, just talk, procedures.
And they highlighted the work they've done. I think I saw a note about that.
Yes, the chair mentioned they've already gone through like 2,500, 3,000 pages of material from other cities, trying to show they're doing their homework.
Which highlights that classic tension, doesn't it? The public sees one thing or fears one thing, while the committee is deep in the weeds of research.
And then committee member Mr. Pearson, he had a pretty direct challenge for the public.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He basically said, don't rely on rumors. Use open records requests to get the emails, the minutes. Hold us accountable with facts.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Promoting transparency through official channels. It's a key part of the process, really.
Definitely. And speaking of transparency, another citizen, Richard Jones, he had some very concrete things he wanted the committee to look at.
Okay, like what?
More money for the Board of Elections ads, for one. He called voter turnout deplorable.
Linking public participation directly to funding. Interesting.
He also wanted them to review the SOPs, the standard operating procedures for county departments, improve how things run day to day.
Okay, so getting into operational efficiency too. But his points went deeper, right? Into the structure itself.
They did. He was worried about diluting the power of the county commissioners, didn't want a, quote, dictator mayor.
So hitting that core tension about where power should sit, that's central to this whole review.
Absolutely. And he also hammered on transparency for SBL's money, sales tax funds.
Right, the special purpose local options sales tax, big local funding source.
He brought up an example, like $84 million allocated, then suddenly it's $66 million left. And he just asked, where did the money go?
Wow, that's a pointed question. It really underscores that public demand for clear financial accountability and how that ties right back into trust.
Yeah, it all seems to circle back to trust, doesn't it? Which kind of leads us perfectly into the big debate, the actual structure of Augusta's government.
The whole shotgun wedding idea.
Exactly. Former Mayor Deke Copenhaver used that exact phrase, said the current setup breeds mistrust to this day.
That's a powerful image. Suggests something forced together, maybe not working well.
It really sets up his argument. He threw out a statistic that honestly kind of makes you stop and think.
Which one was that?
96% of U.S. cities have either a strong mayor or a strong manager system.
Meaning Augusta's in that tiny 3–4% other group.
Right. And his point wasn't just, oh, we're different. It was, we're operating under a model that's not really standard practice.
And potentially less effective because of it.
That's his argument. He said the current structure, mayor with 11 bosses, the commissioners, and no real emergency powers. Like, he couldn't act alone during an ice storm. It just leads to inefficiency.
Gridlock, basically. Hard to get things done quickly or decisively.
Yeah. And here's where he connects it directly to people's lives. He thinks this inefficiency is a contributing factor to Augusta's high poverty rate, 24%.
And the Alice population. Asset limited, income constrained, employed.
Yeah, 59% in that category. He's linking the government's operating system, or lack thereof, to real economic hardship.
That's a significant link he's drawing, not just policy, but the structure itself hindering progress.
He even suggested things like quarterly shareholder meetings for citizens, more transparency.
Yeah.
His goal is this gold standard for consolidated governments focused on efficiency, not, who has the power.
So shifting the focus from political personalities to effective service delivery. It's an interesting frame.
It is. But that idea of efficiency quickly ran into questions about fairness and trust, especially around economic development.
Right. Commissioner Wimberly brought that up. Concerns that the benefits weren't reaching everywhere.
Specifically South Augusta. He questioned if people there really trusted that development money was helping them.
And Copenhaver's response.
He argued a rising tide lifts everybody and pointed out that corporate parks are in South Augusta.
So a disagreement on how benefits are distributed or perceived. That's common.
Copenhaver also floated an idea to make all commissioners run at large, like in North Augusta.
Meaning they'd represent the whole city, not just one district.
Exactly. His reasoning was it would make them more accountable to everyone.
Interesting idea for accountability. But you could argue it might dilute representation for specific neighborhoods, couldn't you? Especially diverse areas.
That's the tension, right? And it immediately sparked a really intense discussion about environmental justice and health in South Augusta.
Ah, yes, Commissioner Robinson's points.
She stated very clearly that zip codes 30906 and 309 have the highest pollution rates in the state.
And linked that to higher cancer rates in those same areas.
Yeah. Concerns were raised about factories not providing local jobs and benefiting residents. The whole issue of environmental justice.
Like that biodigester plant example she used didn't bring the benefits people expected.
Copenhaver acknowledged the health concerns, talked about unusual forms of cancer, but he really pushed for working together, solving big picture issues, not getting stuck in blame.
Trying to find common ground, move forward.
But then Commissioner Coleman offered a different view. He said he hasn't seen much evidence of factories dumping things.
Really? What did he attribute the air quality issues to?
Federal issues, primarily. Fort Gordon burning acres and the smoke settling over the city. He called that the biggest air quality control problem.
So you have different officials pointing fingers in different directions for the same problem. Makes finding solutions pretty tricky.
Definitely. And Commissioner Coleman, he didn't stop there. He had some really strong words about government dysfunction in general.
What kind of dysfunction?
He said flat out, it wasn't about power, it wasn't about authority, it was about money. He described commissioners camping out, trying to influence hiring, contracts.
He used the term dating pool, didn't he, for contracts?
He did. It paints a really stark picture. He called for much more oversight and transparency in the money.
That's a heavy critique from an insider.
Copenhaver actually seemed to agree on that point. He mentioned that the administrator would recommend qualified people for department head jobs.
But politics would get in the way.
Yeah. It became about getting the 6 votes needed on the commission, not necessarily picking the best candidates.
So political maneuvering, overriding professional recommendations, that certainly sounds dysfunctional. How common is that sort of dynamic? And can a charter review even fix something like that? Seems ingrained.
Well, that dynamic, sadly, isn't unique to Augusta. You see it in lots of places where politics can overshadow expertise. A charter review can't, change human nature.
Right.
But it can try to reshape the rules of the game. Define roles more clearly. What's the manager's lane? What's the commission's lane? Maybe create stronger independent checks on money and hiring. Minimize the opportunities for that kind of influence.
Setting up better guardrails, essentially.
Exactly. Which brings us to the mechanics. We got some really helpful definitions from Dr. Fazer at the Carl Vinson Institute. He helped clarify the difference between the charter and other rules.
Right. The charter is the big one, the constitution for the local government.
Yeah, it sets up the legal existence, the whole framework, outlines the powers. It's the foundational blueprint.
Whereas ordinances are more like the day-to-day laws, speed limits, zoning rules, business licenses, that kind of thing.
They put the charter's powers into action, and they're easier to change. And he also clarified that SOPs, standard operating procedures, are totally separate, more like internal manuals, not the committee's focus.
Okay, so the committee is really wrestling with that foundational document, the charter. Did Dr. Fazer break down the leadership models too?
He did. The strong mayor system. Mayor's the chief executive, makes key decisions, appoints department heads, controls the budget, often has veto power.
Like a CEO, basically.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
Then the weak mayor system. No real independent executive power, no veto. The mayor is more ceremonial, subordinate to the city council.
And Augusta-Richmond, where does it fit now?
Currently weak mayor. Mayor presides over meetings, does ceremonial stuff, signs contracts,
Right.
but only executes laws as required by commission ordinances. And importantly, is a full voting member of the commission. No more power than any commissioner, really.
So part of the legislative body, not really a separate executive branch?
Pretty much. And then there's the difference between an administrator and a manager.
Ah, yes, important distinction.
An administrator is appointed, reports to the mayor or commission, implements policy, but has limited independent authority. Needs commission approval for most big things.
Okay, and a manager.
Also appointed, but serves as the chief executive officer. Has broad authority over daily operations, budget, personnel, including hiring and firing. More autonomy. Expected to be professional, non-political.
Got it. So where does Augusta's current administrator fit?
They recommend department heads, though we heard that doesn't always stick. They appoint and fire other staff, but under the authority of the commission. Supervise departments, again, under the commission, and prepare the budget. So definitely more limited than a manager role.
Okay, so putting this all together, how does Augusta stack up against the rest of Georgia? Is this weak mayor-administrator model common here?
Not really. Dr. Fazer pointed out that the majority of Georgia cities are not weak mayor. Strong mayor or the council manager form are more common.
So Augusta really is an outlier within the state, too, not just nationally.
Seems that way. He also mentioned that most Georgia local elections, even in metro areas, are nonpartisan, which is interesting.
Yeah, keeps party politics out of it, supposedly. Did he touch on how ordinances actually get passed as that in the charter?
He clarified that. The charter grants the authority to pass ordinances, but the specific process, how you make a motion, draft it, etc., that's usually handled in separate rules of procedure, not spelled out in the charter itself.
Okay, that makes sense. One more thing on the models. Why would even a strong mayor need an administrator or manager if they have executive power?
Good question. Dr. Fazer suggested mayors are often elected for their vision, their political leadership.
Not necessarily because they're experts in, say, wastewater management or complex budgeting.
Exactly. They need that professional, technical expertise to actually run the complex machinery of a city day to day. The manager or administrator executes the vision.
Right, handles the operational side. Makes sense.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the committee itself. It sounds like they're facing some internal headwinds.
Yeah, some friction. What's going on there?
Seems there was a pretty heated debate about subcommittee meeting schedules, of all things.
Procedural stuff.
Right.
But it got heated.
Apparently so. Members like Ms. Bacchus and Ms. Robinson felt like some people were trying to just ignore or overrule votes the full committee had already taken.
That'll cause problems. Undermines the group's decisions.
Big time. They talked about a breakdown of trust and feeling like not everyone's voice was equal. There was even a specific point about being told no phones during meetings to avoid outside interference.
Okay.
But then feeling like decisions got changed right after meetings anyway, suggesting maybe there was outside influence.
Oof. That doesn't sound good for group cohesion.
No. Mr. Bryant just came out and said it. There's a fundamental distrust among the committee members.
Yeah.
That's a tough environment to be in when you're trying to agree on something as big as a city charter.
Definitely. And on top of that internal stuff, they're also figuring out how to get input from the public, right? The survey.
Yeah, the survey plan. The Carl Vinson Institute advised them to make the questions more narrowly focused.
Get actionable information, not just general feelings.
Right, like maybe avoid asking what works well in Augusta if the answer isn't something the charter can actually change. Keep it relevant to their task.
Makes sense. What about worries over duplicate responses? People gaming the system.
They asked about that, especially from shared computers like libraries. The expert said, technically you could track IPs, but practically it's not productive. You don't want to block legitimate responses from public access points.
Yeah, you'd likely exclude more valid input than you'd catch duplicates. So what's the plan for the survey now?
They decided to let the Carl Vinson Institute basically handle it, create it, send it out. The committee gets to review and comment via email.
But no formal vote on the questions.
No electronic vote, apparently due to state law limitations on how official committee business can be conducted outside of public meetings.
Okay, navigating those open meeting laws. Another layer of complexity.
And speaking of logistics, they hit a snag with scheduling the public hearings.
A hiccup, I think you called it earlier.
Yeah. Turns out the recreation centers they plan to use are unavailable.
Upcoming runoff election.
Exactly. The Public Service Commission runoff is July 15th, and early voting runs July 7th to 11th. So the rec centers are booked as polling places.
Ah, okay, so they need new venues.
They're looking at schools now, but that brings up questions about, are they easy for everyone to get to? Are there costs involved?
Right. So new dates proposed?
Yeah, they're looking at July 21st and 22nd for the meetings that got bumped. The one on July 10th at the municipal building is apparently still on.
But this scheduling issue raised a bigger question, didn't it?
It did. Someone suggested maybe pushing all the public meetings back to August.
Why August?
Well, the runoff would be over, so maybe less political noise. And crucially, the survey results might be back by then.
Ah, so the public could react to the survey findings, and the committee could hear feedback based on more concrete data. Makes sense for a more informed discussion.
Seems logical. And finally, just a quick clarification on their deadline. There was some confusion.
People thought it was maybe end of this year.
Yeah, November or December 2025 is floating around. But the official resolution says the deadline is March 31st of 2026.
Okay, so it's technically a 12-month process that started this past April.
Right, though they can finish early or ask for an extension if needed. So there's time, but also a clear end date.
Good to have that clear.
So wrapping this all up, this deep dive into Augusta's Charter Review Committee really shows, a complicated picture. You've got high public expectations clashing with history and all the detailed, sometimes messy mechanics of local government.
Absolutely. From those early accusations about predetermined outcomes and the ongoing calls for more transparency.
To the fundamental debate about government structure and how it actually affects people's jobs, health, and wallets, it's clear this committee has a massive job ahead.
The whole weak mayor versus strong mayor thing, the administrator versus manager roles, where power should actually sit, it highlights that constant push and pull between being efficient and making sure everyone feels represented.
And now they're navigating their own internal disagreements and these logistical problems with getting public input. It's definitely not over yet. The conversation about how Augusta governs itself is really just heating up.
You know, what's really striking here is how everything, whether it's charters, procedures, or budget debates, it all seems to boil down to trust.
Trust, yeah, that word keeps coming up.
Trust between the officials themselves, trust in the review process itself, and maybe most importantly, trust between the government and the citizens. And that seems shaky right now.
It does.
So it leaves you with a big question, doesn't it? As they search for this efficient and effective government model, how do you strike that balance? How do you get decisive leadership and foster that deep, real trust across a diverse community, especially when trust itself seems to be one of the main things that's broken?